Welcome to a very special video on Mono Sports Talk. This video is going to be a lot of fun for you guys watching it. You guys are going to very much enjoy it. I had the exclusive opportunity to interview Mr. Rich Eisen, one of the most famous sportscasters in the industry. He's been a part of NFL GameDay Morning and NFL Total Access, as well as the Rich Eisen Show, with streams on Peacock, NBCSN, and YouTube. He's been a very, very successful sportscaster, and it was an absolute pleasure to interview him today. Hope you guys enjoy. This evening, I'm joined by none other than the legendary sportscaster, Mr. Rich Eisen. Rich, thank you so much for joining today. How are you?
I am well, Manav. Thanks for your invitation by Twitter. How about
thank
that?
You.
Twitter's good for something.
Yeah, Twitter has been great for me.
Oh, great. Terrific.
Well, we have kickoff in Tampa tomorrow with the defending Super Bowl champions Tampa Bay Bucs taking on the Dallas Cowboys on NBC. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this matchup, as it's, a super great matchup, and I'd love to hear your prediction as well.
Well, I think it'll be a tough one for Dallas to win. That's my first blush thought. Obviously, anything can happen. Dak is known for playing excellent football. And the Cowboys appear to be full go and all healthy, with the exception of Zach Martin, who's a key member of their offensive line. I'd be concerned about that, the fact that he's not going to be playing in the game. And this is the same defense in front seven that the last time we saw them play on this turf, they ran Patrick Mahomes around and sent the Chiefs back to the old drawing board on their offensive line, which, I know the injury bug was going to present them with that problem anyway, because of what had happened in the playoffs last year. But I do like Tampa to win this. I've been fortunate to be at a few of these games where the banner gets raised, and boy, that's just a real tough assignment for a road team to
it must
win
be super loud.
It is. It can be, but then again, after the first quarter is over, that kind of, there's a little bit of a dip, sort of like when if you ever have sugar, you come off the high and suddenly, you kind of come down a little bit. And so, the Cowboys have a chance to withstand a storm, or maybe even throw the first punch. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
Personally, I think you mentioned it well, that Zach Martin injury. To me, he's one of the best linemen in the NFL, no doubt. And to me, it's going to be tough handling the pressure from the Bucs front four, like you said in the Super Bowl. With JPP, Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea, you have those guys inside. It's going to be tough for that O-line to handle it. And, I think it's going to be like a Patrick Mahomes type situation where he's running around. Same thing with Dak Prescott. It's his first game back.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even play a single snap in preseason because of that shoulder. I just think Tom Brady's going to dice up this defense. It's a new defense under Dan Quinn. It's a new coordinator. I just think it's going to be pretty easy for the Bucs. 28-13 is my score.
Oh, wow. You give me a score even, Manav. Okay. You give me scores. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, you could very well be right. There's no doubt everything that you just said could clearly play out on Thursday night. No doubt.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Now, I saw your Super Bowl prediction on the Rich Eisen Show earlier.
Okay.
Rematch of last year, you had Bucs versus Chiefs, Bucs winning in SoFi. And you also mentioned about Tom Brady. I totally agree. He's much more open about that confidence you had mentioned.
Yeah.
Without Bill Belichick, kind of, let's just say hovering around him.
Nice word.
He's just more open, and the entire roster is returning. Like, that's crazy. I've never seen that happen. Simply because, to me, he's taking less money to basically, get this team back on track and win another championship, to win that ring. And with the Chiefs, I definitely think they're going to reach the Super Bowl. They're my AFC champions at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think Buffalo is going to come a little closer, but to me, I just have this gut feeling that the Bucs are not going to make it. I could be totally wrong, because Tom Brady.
No, I mean, Manav, odds are it's, we haven't seen a repeat champion since Brady did it in 03-04.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen back-to-back Super Bowl. We haven't seen a Super Bowl rematch the year after the first time they played since 92-93. And there's a reason why, because it's so difficult to get back. It's so tough to get back. And so I would definitely, that's why, I just went back and forth. It may sound like a cop out, but I just look at these teams, the way that they are built, the way that they're playing, the way that Bucs won last year, even with Tom Brady still learning the offense, even still getting comfortable in Tampa, getting comfortable with, he's now in a routine, like I can't imagine how much of an advantage it's going to be, the fact that he's in a routine and he has also defended a championship 6 times before and can be the voice within the locker room to lead on that front. And barring any injuries or anything unforeseen, and obviously they won't be perfect, but I find it very difficult to see another team being better. But that's why it's an 18-game crucible, now 18-week crucible of a regular season with the playoffs beyond.
Yeah. Like with this team returning, it was so hard for me to go against them, but I just feel something special is going to happen. The pairing of Sean McVay and Matt Stafford together. I feel that's going to be something to watch. And then you have back-to-back home Super Bowls, right? The Rams playing at home, the Bucs played at home last year. I just think this combination offensively, it offers something. And looking at Tampa Bay, I still think they have a weakness in the defense and at the corner position in the secondary. If you have enough time in the pocket, I feel like you can take advantage of that. And that Rams defense, I mean, that secondary is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Rams?
Well, I'm very high on Matthew Stafford. I think a lot of people aren't, because he spent all that time in Detroit and wasn't the culture changing presence in the win column that a first overall selected quarterback who has 11 years, 12 years in the league, that he had a long time, essentially, is what I'm saying, to provide the Lions with what they wanted. But obviously it's a team effort, and that includes a front office and a coaching staff that constantly would churn. And I think he's in a much better position. Obviously, I think this is the greatest offensive mind that he's been hooked up with, outside of Calvin Johnson, clearly, who's the best player that Stafford will probably ever play with.
Yeah, honestly.
This is the best collection I think he's had, and the best offensive line that he's going to have in front of him. And you mentioned the defense. You need star players on every level, and they've got a star player up front, and they got a star player in the back. And the front end and the back end of the defense plays together so well that I think that the Rams are going to win that division. Like I said, though, I chose Tom Brady to win last year's Super Bowl at this very point last year, Manav. I chose them to win it. And NFL Network GameDay Morning gives you a chance to change your pick on Thanksgiving. And I took that bait. I took that cheese, because if you remember, it was that Thanksgiving Sunday when Tampa got lit up by Kansas City in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And you remember Tyreek Hill had 200 yards receiving in the first quarter. And at the end of that game, they played so well over the final 3 quarters that Tony Romo was calling that game saying, maybe this is your matchup. You'll see them again.
I remember that very clearly. Yeah.
Right. And I got off of that bandwagon just 3 days before that game was played. And then I had a chance in the playoffs to do one more mulligan. And my then I'm not going to blame. I guess I am blaming it on my younger son by saying this. I just took his advice, and I thought it was sound advice. Green Bay versus the Bills. Going into those playoffs, Green Bay, as we all know, was the 1 seed.
Yes.
And the Bills were playing lights out. And I thought the Chiefs were vulnerable. And as we saw, they were vulnerable against the pass rush of the Bucs once that they were injury ravaged up front. That's my long-winded way of saying I'm not going to go against Tom Brady again. I swore to myself, don't take that cheese again. So here I am. I'm just trying to be consistent to my pledge.
I mean, so many people have just gone against him, and every year, I mean, it's like he just keeps proving them wrong. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. And honestly, I'm just lucky to be witnessing such a great player in Tom Brady.
I agree with you, brother.
Yeah. So now I really want to switch gears to my Texans. I'm a big Texans fan here. I just really wanted to talk about the Deshaun Watson situation overall. That's what I've been calling it. There are a lot of things here going on. And realistically, I think the Texans have made a decent move, honestly, of just keeping him on the 53-man roster. To me, what they're doing is they're just leaving him there, and then they'll be trading him once everything is settled legally. They have a couple of options that I pointed out. I had made a video on it actually,
Okay.
and I had said a couple of options were to put him on IR to make room for another player temporarily, but I don't know how long you can stay on IR necessarily. They could force him to play. At this stage, that doesn't seem very likely at all. They'd have to play hardball with Watson. I just don't know if that would be likely at this stage. They would have to fine him, suspend him. Personally, I think that would honestly be a better option to me because, right now you just have to pay him 10 million to stay on that 53-man roster. Or they could trade him now, but that doesn't really make sense because you won't get enough value back because of all these legal situations. So realistically, I wanted to ask you, what would you do in this kind of situation?
What they're doing, which is keep him on the roster, pay him, and hope the situation goes away and resolves itself fast.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to play for them.
Yeah, I know.
And he said that all before all of these allegations first came to light, Manav. And I don't think that's changed.
Okay.
And the Texans don't want to play him because as well, it kind of dovetails into what their needs are. What if the guy gets hurt?
Yeah,
What if the guy gets hurt?
That was something you're saying.
And it's entirely possible. I mean, anything's possible, clearly, because I didn't see in a million years that this would be a situation, to use the phrase that is used quite a bit, as you use, and a lot of us do, as a shorthand, and the word situation's doing a lot of heavy lifting. But I don't think anybody saw this conundrum, this problem, in being in Deshaun Watson's world or in his character, or something that he would get involved in, or it would beset him, however you want to use it. And I know those words connote whose fault it is or problem it is or who's brought it on. And we just don't know. But it's possible, who knows, that this resolves itself before the trade deadline. And having a healthy Watson ready and right then and there would be particularly valuable for the Texans. And I don't think, however, this is going to resolve itself before the beginning of next season. Beginning of next year's new league year. And it would behoove the Texans to move him then, because they'll know who the players are and who they could play off of one another, and where the draft choices that they're acquiring will land.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you trade Watson, let's just say, even I say a trade deadline, let's just say all of the legal problems are handled, go away, don't exist, they're dropped, however you want to put it. Okay. And suddenly you trade him, let's just say again, to a quarterback needy team that otherwise has a chance to win and win now. Or they want to get somebody on the cheap like Watson. They think they can get him on the cheap, which I doubt if everything's already handled.
Yeah.
The reason why I bring this all up is the Texans would watch the draft choices they acquire for Watson get worse, because you're assuming Watson will do what Watson does, which is win.
Yes.
And so it's an awful predicament. And I know Nick Caserio keeps coming up with different ways to say the words of, we'll take it one day at a time. Or I guess, we had fun with that on my show the other day. Yeah. What's the word? He used the word today. We'll recalibrate moment to moment. Like, he's coming up with different ways of saying the same thing, because what's the man supposed to do? He's got a quarterback who doesn't want to play for him, and also is in such a predicament that is undervalued on the trade market.
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to all things being equal. So he's got to wait till all things are equal again. I just don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just so unfortunate to see such a great star quarterback. I loved seeing Deshaun play. He was like a magician on the field, just evading.
And I'll be honest, I feel for you and Texans fans. Like, no, I really do. Pardon me, but you're a 17-year-old who loves his team, clearly.
Yeah.
And loves your home. You love your hometown. You love your team. You love rooting for your team. And who better to be the face of your franchise?
I know,
than Deshaun Watson. Who better to root for? Who better to want to meet and be like? And then pardon me, we hear so many things happen that he's accused of, or
Yeah.
what have you. So I feel for you.
Well, thanks for that. It's going to be a rough season coming up for the Texans. And the Texans are going through a rebuild right now. I think, honestly, when GM Nick Caserio was hired, I think everybody here in Houston was a little bit unsure about how it was going to go. Getting another guy from New England.
Right.
It's called like the Texans. I mean, what do they call it? Like the Patriots
Patriots
South.
South.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Patriots South over here. But honestly, I think Nick Caserio has done a pretty good job as the GM of the Texans so far. After having Bill O'Brien as the GM before, I feel that we have a great future ahead with him as the GM. He's in a lot of one-year free agent deals throughout the offseason. And I think the new hiring of Lovie Smith, the Tampa 2 system is going to be great for this young team, just cleaning out everything, restarting. How would you really approach this rebuild, and how long do you think this would take realistically?
Oh gosh, I don't know how long, but I how do you approach it? They trade away Bradley Roby, who has a one-game suspension, but I mean, they trade him away, and it's just how do you trade away a good player on the outset of the season with a one-game suspension? Albeit, I understand. It's just, I feel for David Culley. He's got somebody as talented as Deshaun Watson healthy who doesn't want to play for them, and they can't play him even if they wanted to. I mean, it's a terrible situation. But I do love Mark Ingram, and I do love David Johnson, and I do love Philip Lindsay. They have a terrific running back core.
Yeah, that's like a three-headed monster.
Brandon Cooks is a terrific player, and Tyrod Taylor has just gotten one bad break after another in recent days, where he's got a coach in Cleveland that wants to play him instead of his kid who he drafted first overall, and then Tyrod Taylor gets hurt on Thursday Night Football. In comes Baker, and the rest is history. And then the coach gets bounced.
Yeah.
And then we all know what happened last year. A coach who loved him and wanted to play him in the worst way, to the point where when Justin Herbert comes in for Taylor and lights it up against Kansas City, the coach basically says, he's not my starter. Anthony Lynn's our starter. And if you know football, you wouldn't think otherwise. And then clearly everybody saw how special Herbert was and looked, and it was just like, what are you saying? But so he's had two coaches who adored him and really believed in him and wanted to play him and have him be the veteran presence in their locker room and also on the field. And then he got hurt one time on the field and one time in a freak, pregame
something
needle
with the lung. It was
I mean, so and now here he gets a shot in the most bizarre set of circumstances, and I hope he succeeds. They have a winnable game to start the season, certainly when it's a division game at home against a team that, albeit has one of the most generationally talented players, we assume, coming out of college that we've seen in a while. They just won one game last year.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big week one matchup. That's way down on the marquee, but I'll be watching.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I do think the Texans will take the win. Obviously, I might be a little biased, but it's a very, very winnable game for them. And going back to Tyrod Taylor, to me, I think he's a good leader in that locker room. I know it's a bit of a rough situation going on there, but do you think some veterans, like Tyrod Taylor, like Whitney Mercilus, how do you think they can try and like put this team back together? Like, do you think Tyrod is a good leader necessarily?
Sure, of course. I mean, I can't sit here. I'm not in the locker room, and I can't sit here and say never.
Yeah.
I can sit here and say, based on, my experience of, observing and watching and analyzing, the odds aren't very good. The outlook doesn't look very good either.
Yeah.
And it's more than just about what's going on there football wise. There's got to be a lot of what gives that we're unaware of, that David Culley's probably doing his best to tamp down. This is a big opportunity for a man in his mid-60s who's never done it before also. So it's a big season. Every NFL season is, and I wish your team the best of luck.
Well, thanks for that. Just one last question here.
Sure.
What do you think the season prediction would be for the Texans?
You should have let's say, I put this way. You should have a lot of patience.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
doing
If
that.
you were of drinking age, I would say you should have something that handy as well on occasion. And also prepare yourself to hear some, hopefully for you, good news early on draft night in April.
Yeah.
That would be my prediction for your Texans, but I hope for the best.
Well, thanks for that. I hope you get some good picks if you do trade Deshaun.
Oh, yeah.
And
You will. You'll have a lot
yeah,
of picks.
definitely
You might have a very busy first night of the draft, not
busy
just
draft
an
night.
early
Yeah, on the
piece of
first
good
round.
news, but a lot
Yeah.
of interesting developments for your team next
Yeah.
April, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, all right, Rich. Well, thank you so much for joining today. That was my last question. Really appreciate your support joining tonight. That really
You
meant a
bet.
lot.
Thanks for what you said on Twitter and reaching out. And we're now in contact. Just let me know if I've got time. I'll hop back on.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. Well, thank you so much, Rich. You
Take
have a
care,
good
Manav.
night.
You
Yeah, you have a good night.
Take
You too.
care. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Pleasure meeting.
Yeah, you too.